Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Minicamp would be very similar to what our OTAs have been. We'll have a few days of that next week, and so it'll be similar structure. Once we get to training camp, obviously, once the pads come on, there'll be a much more physical component.
Kellen Moore, after the final day of Saints OTAs on Thursday, Katherine Terrell, ESPN.com, was there. She's here now. Kat, always appreciate you. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
Very well. Give us a sense, for those who have never been to an OTA practice, what it's like.
Yeah, so most of them, I guess, the past few years have been closed. They are opening minicamp next week, as y'all just heard. But, so basically you go in, they'll start with individual drills, break up into groups, run those for a little bit, then they'll stretch. Then at this point in the year, they basically have rules saying how much they can do. So obviously you're not in pads. That's a big thing. There's limited things you can do in terms of competition. So right now it's a lot of 7-on-7 work, which I guess has a result of making the quarterbacks look pretty good this early in the year. It's not a bad thing. It's just there's going to be a lot of reports of, this quarterback made this throw and this wide receiver made this catch. And, it's 7-on-7, so the offense probably should be looking good. But those are the main things that we get excited about and watch. It's kind of all about, how are the quarterbacks handling things? Is anyone standing out? And I wouldn't say there's any new standouts yet, but that definitely will kind of happen as there's more competition period when we get to training camp.
Give me whatever small or large takeaways you have from the quarterbacks through 3 weeks of OTAs.
I honestly think that I'm about to say both. I know there's more than two, but let's be real. We're basically going to be focusing on two quarterbacks for most of the summer. I think both of the quarterbacks have handled things the right way. I've said this before with Tyler Shough. I think he kind of gets it. He gets what he's supposed to be doing, just everything from media to reaching out to his teammates early on. And I think with those two, the biggest thing is making quick decisions, learning how to read, run the offense, things like that. So far, it's kind of up and down, to be completely honest. I think some have good days when we're in there. Remember, we only get to see one out of the 3 OTA practices a week. Some have bad days, but I wouldn't really say there's any standout yet at this point.
That's fair. What about, I'm very interested, Kat, in the fact that both Olave and Shaheed are back. And it was such a giant, glaring weakness a season ago when those two guys went out. Have either caught your eye so far through 3 weeks?
I thought Shaheed looked great last week. I think you do put your eyes on him a lot just because of the injury and because, like you said, he was a really important piece of the offense. And once they lost him, there's a lot of dominoes after that with people getting injured. But I think that hurt them a lot because, he's probably the fastest guy on the team, or if not the fastest, he's definitely one of them. And so they need that. And then after Olave, I think there's a big drop-off in terms of wide receivers. I mean, they have Brandon Cooks, but, Olave is the guy that's supposed to be still an ascending player, right? We don't know what his ceiling is. The biggest question with him is the concussion issue a long-term issue? Is that going to come back up? Will he be able to protect himself? More so than is this guy talented? So I do think that there are some questions with that, but I really do think they look good. And Kellen Moore talked about Olave a couple of times today and just said, he's been here every day. He looks good. I don't think the Saints and Olave are talking about the concussion issue. I think that's more us discussing it for lack of other things to discuss at this time of the year.
I know there was a video the Saints released of Spencer Rattler throwing a deep ball to Chris Olave that was super, super impressive. Brandon Cooks is another guy, obviously, that's working his way. Cooks, any other receivers that you think are making any headway?
Cooks is not at the open practice today, so
okay.
There won't be much from him today. But, I think Bub Means is a guy that people are probably going to be looking at to try to take a step forward in year two. He was injured at the end of last year. I can't remember how many games he missed. And also, to be completely fair, he wasn't he didn't have a big role in the offense at that time. But I would think that if any of the receivers are going to take a step forward, it's probably going to be him. I mean, he has been utilized a lot so far, and that's even with Olave and Shaheed back in the lineup. The interesting thing for me is he's not a receiver, but a pass catcher. Does Taysom Hill come back, and if so, when? And could he be the same player whenever he's recovered from that injury he had last year?
Bub Means played in 7 games last year.
7 games.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I should have asked. Attendance, notable absence there, not there today or throughout?
Let's see. Cam Jordan wasn't there. Chase Young wasn't there. Ruiz wasn't there, but Kellen Moore said that wasn't anything injury-related. So I think that's just more the voluntary aspect of OTAs, because he was there when they had the community event on Tuesday. Jake Hayner did a little bit today when they were kind of doing some, half-speed things, which is a good sign that, he's progressing from his injury. Quincy Riley did a little bit. He's been sitting out. And Foster Morrow hasn't been able to do anything, but he's been out there every single day, trying to participate as much as you can when you're still healing. Someone jokingly asked him, what's your timetable for returning? And he just said, I'm working on it. So probably still going to be a little bit for him.
God bless you for saying Morrow instead of falling into the Moreau trap. Kat Terrell is with us. She's
probably done both.
At Kat_Terrell, ESPN. Flip it over to defense. I saw a lot of you all tweeting about the day that Alante Taylor had. What was so nice about his day on Thursday?
Yeah, I think he was just all over the place making plays. And Alante Taylor is such an interesting guy because I think that he has so much potential. And Kellen Moore even talked about it today. He was kind of practically gushing over a couple of players he got asked about. Foster was one of them, and Alante was another one. He's got this very high ceiling, in my opinion. I just think his career to this point has been so up and down, and there's been coaching changes and things like that, defensive changes. He's moved around, and he can play inside or outside, but I think that them moving him around a lot kind of hurt him. I remember after Darren Rizzi was hired last year, I talked to him for a minute, and he said, I called my mom today and told her this is the best practice I've had all year, and he may have said in his career. And, maybe that shows maybe his development was stifled a little bit. So I think they're really excited about him, and I think there's a lot to be excited about, honestly.
Do we know where they plan on playing him, Kat? I mean, is he going to be on the boundary slot? Say, where's he going to be?
My guess is he plays inside this year, but I think that they're probably still going to move him around a lot in the early stages, just to kind of, well, first of all, get him reps at both places just in case, but also, see where he fits best. The interesting thing to me is I know going back to the other side, offense, they haven't been doing that much with the offensive line. I thought there would be more moving around the first team offense than there actually has been. It kind of felt like for the offense they picked it and they're moving forward, which for that unit I think that's a good thing.
Got a couple more for you. I always like that. By the way, anybody else on the defensive side of the ball aside from Taylor that stood out good, bad for whatever reason on Thursday?
No one stood out for a bad reason, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
I think Isaac Yadam made a couple of plays. I'm trying to think, just without pads, there's only so many things
Sure.
I can tell you, as you know.
That's why I'm not asking you about any of the linemen. It's just not worth it. It's just nothing. They hit a sled. That's it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I know. And I was seriously going through the defensive line in my head thinking, is there anything I could say about any of them? No, I mean, it kind of seemed status quo today, which,
That's
good or bad, like I said, depending on how you look at it.
Perfectly acceptable answer. And you mentioned that Chase Young and Cam Jordan weren't at practice today. Last one. What about newbies, rookies, UDFAs? Any of the newcomers catch your eye?
The one I'm excited about is Devin Neal. He's probably gotten more reps than maybe he would have because Kamara, as everyone knows, doesn't go to OTAs. Kellen Moore did say he expects Kamara and Tyrann Mathieu back next week. So we'll see if that happens, but I would expect it would. Devin Neal's the one I'm kind of interested how they use him, what can happen there, because I do think after Kamara, it is kind of a toss-up as to what they do with some of these running backs, because Kendre Miller is another guy that didn't have a great season last year. It felt like he kind of got on Dennis Allen's bad side right away with that hamstring issue in camp and never really recovered from that. And so, yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what they do with him. And as I keep repeating every week, I am interested to see if they sign another wide receiver.
Where would they find another wide receiver?
I mean, it's after June 2nd, so that's kind of the time when I think that the last free agents on the market are kind of being looked at by teams just because of salary cap implications and things like that. They're about to get money back, both from Derek Carr and Ryan Ramczyk when Ramczyk files his retirement papers. So, hey, this much cap space for the Saints. It's like shopping spree time. They're probably itching to spend it somehow.
Yeah, that's probably not a good thing. It's like when my mom used to say, like you get money for your birthday, it's burning a hole in your pocket. Like you got to go spend it. You don't have to go spend it. You don't have to. Like you can wait and do something sensible with it. That's possible. It's an option to you, New Orleans. Come smack and Mick.
Well,
you can do that.
Aaron Rodgers is now off the market.
Yeah.
So you don't have to talk about that anymore.
But Kirk Cousins might soon be. Let's start that. Let's kick those. Let's fan those embers. Get those flames rolling with Kirk coming to New Orleans. We'll see. All right, Kat, we appreciate it. She's on Twitter at Kat_Terrell. Give her a follow, ESPN.com. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, always. We'll talk soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.